Chumash and Rashi, Parshas Ki Sisa, start a new week, a new Torah portion.
What does Sisa mean?
When you raise.
Thank you.
So
Maybe take the 17th. Yeah.
okay.
The 17 is a better choice. Take the 17.
We are
Much better.
okay, chapter 30, verse number 11. We begin. Yidaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, and Hashem spoke. God spoke to Moshe, to Moses, saying, Kisisa, when you will lift up, and here it means to take a census. Okay?
Okay.
The context of it. But the word saw means to lift up. Tisa, when you will lift.
When you take the sentence.
When you take the sentence. It's Reish, the head. Saw is the root word. Tisa is Tisa. You will.
That's imperative. Lift.
You lift, yeah. The imperative is you're counting. You're making an account over here. What are you lifting up? The heads of Bnei Israel, the Jewish people, lipikudehem, for their number, right? So you're lifting up their head, meaning you're taking count, head count, if you will, right? This is where the idea of head count comes from. This is where from these words over here, right? Which of course we don't do that. We don't make a head count. But also, ish kaifer nafshay, and a person will give kaifer nafshay. He will give an atonement. It translates over here ransom, but literally means an atonement. I don't know why it gives a translation of ransom for your soul. La Hashem, to God, bifkoi desam, when they were counted.
That's Yuba?
No, let's just see. Lo yebehem, and there will not be in them negev, a negev, which is a plague. Bifkoi desam, when they will be counted. Rashi. Right, so this is the census of the Jewish people. Let's see what that means. It means that they're giving, that there's a head count over here. What does that mean, a head count? How do you make the head count? It doesn't say. But when you will do this, it will be an atonement, and there will not be a plague as a result. Let's see Rashi. You see, let's learn.
Okay.
So rather than ask, let's see how the explanation is.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm curious, I thought.
You see, so when you take a census, when you take account, losh and Kabbalah Ketargumai, it means over here taking, as Unkelis translates it. When you will want to know the total of their number, to know how many there are, al timnam legulgal. Don't count them by heads. Ella yitnu kol echad machzis a shekel. But as we'll see in the next verse, everybody should give a half a shekel. The timna is a shkolim, and then count the shkolim. And that way you'll know their number, right? In other words, that's how we're gonna see in the next verse. Why Rashi's saying this here, I'm not exactly certain. Okay, lo yevayim negev, and there will not be a plague amongst you. Otherwise, there will be a plague, right? Kishaminyan sheled boy ayin hara, because the evil eye can affect that which has been counted. Shedavar shehadever ba aleihim, because pestilence can come upon them. David, as we found in the days of King David. King David, he counted the people, and because of that came a pestilence, instead of doing what we did here. Exactly.
Minus. Okay.
You don't make a head count, make a foot count. Okay. How many right feet are in this? 13, Zeh Yitnu, this is what they have to give. Right? Zeh Yitnu. Kola Eiver al Pikudim. All those that pass through the count. Machshis a shekel, have to give a half a shekel, b'shekel HaKodesh, which is a holy shekel. Esrim Gera, which is 20 Gera. A shekel is a shekel. Machshis a shekel, and a shekel is 20 shekel, and they're giving half a shekel, right? Machshis shekel, Truma LaHashem, which is a contribution to God. Let's see, Rashi in 13. This is what you shall give. God showed a coin of fire. Mishkala machshis a shekel, whose weight is half a shekel. And he said to him, this is what they need to give. Right. Obvious question is, why does Rashi have to say that this is what happened here? Right? So the Rebbe explains, or as explained, that Moshe Rabbeinu had a difficulty. How could it be that you give half a shekel and you get atoned by giving half a shekel? So, those who pass through among the counted, the practice of those who counted, they are who are counted pass before one after the other, right? Similarly, we have that idea that the animals that go past beneath the rod, so it's one animal after another. So too, as in the phrase, the flocks will pass by the counter. Is a shekel, but shekel HaKodesh. So it's half a shekel of the holy shekel. The weight of the shekel that I have set for you, against which is the weight of the shekel, a holy shekel. It's similar like the shekel that is mentioned in the passages when it deals with the redemption of hektish, of something that's holy, an inherited field. Esim gera a shekel. So a shekel is 20 gera. Now the verse is telling us, specifying how much the shekel is. Gera lashim mo. A gera is the Aramaic word for mo. V'chein b'shmol yavai yishachos la geras kesef kikar lechem. You want to follow in the book, we're in Parshas Sisa. So in the book of Samuel, he will come. No, we're in Shmois, Exodus. We're in chapter 30, verse 13. So he come and bow down to him, a gerah of silver and a loaf of bread. Okay. Esrim gerah hashekel. 1 shekel is 20 gerah. Shashekel hasholim arba zuzim. So now he goes through that a whole shekel is 4 zuz. Zuz mitchilosu chamish ma'os. And a zuz was originally 5 ma. So 5 times 4 will give you to 20, right, gerah. Ella bo vayisifu alav shtus, but they came and added a 1/6 to it. And raised the weight of the zuz to 6 silver mo. And this half a shekel that I mentioned to you in this verse, truma l'Hashem, shall be, you shall give us a portion to Hashem. Okay. 14. All those that pass through the count, they are from 20 years old, Shana, Bamaila, and up. They will give the contribution to God. So it's 20 and up. Rashi in 14, Ben Esrim Shana B'mayla, from 20 years and up. Shaloi Tinagvu Al Yedei Aminyan, so that they should not suffer from a plague because of the counting. Davar Acher. So 1 second. No, I'm sorry. Let me add Khan. Sorry, I read the wrong one. This teaches you, teaches you that lesson 20, you don't go out to the army to serve. The Nimna Miklal Anashim is not counted among the adult men. So it's from 20 and up. Give me 1 second. Quick second. Sit over here.
There was someone in the basement, they cleaning up.
Huh?
Someone's putting up chairs outside in the basement.
Yeah. All right. Verse 15. The Ashir and the rich one, rich, Lo Yarbe should not give more. And others in the half a shekel. Adal and the poor, Lo Yamit, should not give less. Mimachzis shekel, from the half a shekel. Law says to give as Trumas Hashem, the contribution for God, Lachaper al nafshesechem, to bring atonement for the soul. Rashi in 15, Chaper al nafshesechem, to atone for your souls, Shaloi tinagbu al yedei haminyan. They should not suffer a plague because of the counting. Right? Right. You have the place?
579.
Sounds.
Se-
Verse
Sesaba?
15.
Sesaba?
No. Here, give it to me. Fifteen. Yeah.
15.
Okay. Rashi in 15. Chaper al nafshesechem, to atone for your souls. So he said that you should not suffer a plague because of the counting. Davar acher, an alternative explanation to what it means to atone for your souls, because we've already said this, right? Chaper al nafshesechem, lefi sharamaz lahem kan shalish trumos, because there's the Torah is hinting over here that the Jewish people have to give 3 offerings, because it says 3 times truma. Shenichtav kan trumas Hashem shalish pamim, because there's a portion, a gift to God, a contribution to God. It says it 3 times in these verses over here. Achas trumas adanim. One is for the offering of the silver sockets of the Mishkan. Shemanam k'shizchilu b'nidvas hamishkan. And Moshe counted the Israelites when he commanded them the contribution of the Mishkan. Shenasu called echad ve'echad machzis shekel. They gave half a shekel there. Ma'ala lemas hakikar, and it amounted to 100 kikar. Shenemar kesef v'kudei eda me'es kikar, as it says that the silver that they counted was 100 kikar. And from that silver, which was contribution for the Mishkan, right, for making the sanctuary, they from that half a shekel, they made the sockets, right, the sockets that held the planks of the Mishkan. That from the 100 kikar, silver was made the sockets. That's the first contribution, right? Let's mention. Shimon Leib, we're on page, what page is it there?
606.
Huh?
606.
606 in the book. 15. Rashi 15.
Bottom of 15.
Hashenis, the second, right? The second offering is alluded to in the counting. Shemana Meshahukam Mishkan, when Moshe counted them, when the Mishkan was erected, Shu Amin Amar, which is that counting is mentioned in the beginning of the book of Numbers, right? Which is in the first of the second month in the second year, meaning the first of Iyar in the second year. Then everybody also gave half a shekel. And that was in order to buy the communal offerings on the altar every year. And that's when we make when we treat the rich and the poor equally, right? Because everybody has to have an equal portion in the yearly offerings.
Isn't that sort of a little unfair in a way? Because it's much easier for a rich person to give a half shekel than it is for a poor person to give a half shekel.
Take it up with God Almighty, but this is what he says. I mean, this is
Because in another previous section, he said in terms of giving something for the temple, like a sin offering or another kind of offering, he said a rich person should give some silver or gold, and a poor person should give a bird or
right. Right. So there is a distinction. Because this is for the communal offerings, and everybody is to have an equal share in the community offerings. So whether you're rich or poor, you have an equal portion. So in other words, which the message is saying, when you're bringing a sin offering, for example, or other things, those are personal things. This is not personal. This is communal. And therefore, everybody has an equal count in the community. If you're rich, you can't buy your way more than if you're poor, you don't have less of a way.
there's a much greater not saying, well, I shouldn't use the word sacrifice, but it's a far more difficult for someone.
100%. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Just a thought,
No, you're right. And I just explained your question.
not disagreeing with you.
I know.
You made a very good point.
So I'm
I'd like to just say. it's
You're
just,
flattered.
And the truma, when it comes, the offering, the contribution that comes for everybody having an equal share in the communal offerings on the altar, it says to come to atone for your souls. So Shimon, when it came to give other offerings, well, here, yeah, that you have a share, so everybody needs equal atonement. Because the offerings on the altar are coming for an atonement. And the third offering is the offering for the Mishkan. As it says, they set aside offering of silver or copper. And everybody didn't have an equal offering there. Everybody gave according to what their heart's desire was that moved them to contribute. So there you have the distinction. In other words, the Torah is telling us, right, when it comes to communal offerings, so everybody needs to have an equal portion. But when it comes to the building of the Mishkan, so everybody gave what their heart's desire was. So there you had a distinction. Right? Good point, Shimon. Shkoyach.
But the Mishkan is not is a reflection of the community of the
Mishkan is a home for God, the sanctuary for God, right?
So why do you need to have gold and things in the Mishkan? If God,
What else?
God,
What do you think gold was created for? Was gold created so you could have pleasure from it, or was it that you could now beautify the sanctuary of God? To beautify the sanctuary of God. What else was gold created for?
wait a
Right?
minute. The kotel is made from stone. It's not made from. This is also the home for God. It's not made.
First of all, the kotel
Made of
is
wood.
the outer wall. It's not the sanctuary. Kotel is only the outer wall. It's not even. It's the outer wall. It's not the sanctuary.
Actually, wood.
Sanctuary is made from stone. Anyway, whatever. That's a good question, but we're not. It's not for now because right now we're learning Chumash and Rashi.
Reason everybody to give a gold ring to your wife.
Right? Exactly.
You don't give her a silver ring.
Right.
Or a copper ring, of course.
Very good point. Okay, let's do the next verse. 16. Velakachta is a kesef, and you should take the silver, hakipurim, which is silver of atonement, Meis ben Israel, from the children of Israel, v'nesato eisei, and you should place it al avodas hayom for the service of the work of the Oyel Moed, of the tent of meeting, Mahaya livnei Israel, and it should be for the children of Israel, lezikaron, for a remembrance, livnei Hashem, before God, lechaper al nafshaseichem, to bring atonement upon their souls. Psh, a lot of atonement over here. A lot of atonement. 16. And the sata, I say, and you should give it for the work of the tent of meeting. So for this we learn that Moshe was commanded to count them at the time of the beginning of the contributions towards the Mishkan, which comes after the incident of the golden calf.
How you say atonement?
Chaper, Kippur, like Yom Kippurim, Day of Atonement.
Chape?
Kapar,
Kapar.
kapara. Right, so this teaches us, this came after the incident of the golden calf, which by tomorrow will be the story of the golden calf. Because the plague entered amongst them. Hashem smote the people. This can be compared as a metaphor of a flock of sheep precious to its owner that had been stricken with a plague.
Purim always overlaps the golden calf.
No, I'm sorry. I want to stay very focused over here. Okay, I'm going to stay very focused here. So I'm not going to respond to that right now, if you don't mind. Okay. So this can be compared to the flock of sheep that are precious to its owners, that are stricken with a plague. So once the plague ended, the owner said to the shepherd, please count my sheep. To ascertain how many were left, to make it known that the flock is precious to him. Follow that?
The metaphors there?
Another Rashi is saying that this verse is coming after the plague, which the plague came after the sin of the golden calf. And the owner of the sheep, which is God Almighty, who's the owner of his people, right? He says to the shepherd, who's the shepherd? Moses, go count my sheep. Why? Because even though I brought a plague upon them, don't think that they're not precious to me. They're precious to me. Okay? So we can't say that this counting is the one that's mentioned in the book of Numbers, because there it says the first of the second month. And the Mishkan was erected the first day of the first month. Talking. As it says, on the day of the first month of the month, on the first of the month, you shall erect. And it is from this counting of our passage that the sockets in the Mishkan were made from the shkalim. Latzek is, says 100 kikar kesef of silver to cast. From this we learned that there are two countings. The beginning, when they started to make a contribution, right, which is which is after Yom Kippur, because they sinned on the 17th. When did they sin with the golden calf? On the 17th of Tammuz, right? They got atoned for it on Yom Kippur, right? They got atoned for it on Yom Kippur, right? So after that, God said, now also commanded them to make the Mishkan after Yom Kippur. So,
Oh, wow.
right, after Yom Kippur, to make the Mishkan, and that will be a sign of the atonement for the Jewish people. So when was the counting? After that, right, when they first started in their contributions. So it's not the second month of Iyar, which comes much later. It comes about 7 months later. So it wasn't then. That was a other counting.
They installed the day after Yom Kippur, he already started to make his sukkahs immediately after.
All right, I don't know what that has to do with anything here, but
Immediately
Thank you.
after Yom Kippur, they built the Mishkan. Okay.
okay, well, that's I'll tie it in with that. Okay. Even time, and if you will object, is it possible that the both countings in Israel were exactly equal? Because if you look in the book of Numbers and you'll see the counting that's now, they're the exact same number.
Is it connected to the mana?
No,
No connection?
603,550. So how could it be 7 months apart and it'd be the same counting? People were born, well, not born, because new people became 20, people had passed on, right? Because he didn't have my car. Regarding the silver, there was counted as I believe the number is stated, right? In the book of Numbers, it's the same count. It was 603,550. All of Ishtay Shani Mayu, the census were in 2 different years. The Avsheshalay Ayah Bishas Minyan. Harish and Shabbat Teisha, Ve'esrim Shana, Ayah Nimin Mishin and Hashem Esrim. So is it how is it possible that there should not have been at that time the first counting? Those were 19 years old, who would be turned 20, and in the second counting they'd be part of the of that count. So how could it be an identical count? Tshuva L'davar. So the answer to this is
What's the difference between being constructed and erected?
erected was when it was finished. Constructed when they first started. Right? So there was a 6 month difference in time.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just asking if there's a different.
So I just explained. Construction, the erected means when it was finished.
Erected means finished.
Finished. Construction means when you began.
Constructed means finished.
No, constructed means construction. You're in the middle of the construction. If you're in the middle of construction, it means you didn't finish, right?
I thought construction in the past tense means I finished something.
That's
I
constructed.
constructed my house.
That's if
And I
you
erected it. I don't understand that.
construction
You don't
is
even erect a house.
no, but
For example.
but the tabernacle you did because it was in pieces, right? You had planks, you had sockets.
They built it in pieces.
Right, because it was a portable home, right? They traveled throughout the desert with it, right?
Right.
It's not like the holy temple that was made out of stone that was permanent. So regard the years of men, Shon Achas Nimna, they're counted twice in the same year of Eliminating Yitzis Mitzrayim, but for the terms of reckoning, from the times of the Exodus reaches, all your stay shoning. So Yitzis Mitzrayim in Nisan. So when we say 2 different years, that's for leaving out of Egypt, because we count a new year from Egypt from the month of Nisan.
Okay.
So that was indeed 2 different years, right? But the Mishkan was fabricated from the first year after the Exodus. That was erected in the second. But you don't count people from Nisan. Their years, when do you count them? From Tishrei, right? So from Tishrei,
Quite confused by all that, you know.
okay.
I mean, you got like 2.
Shemetchilas b'Tishrei, shenimtza shnei aminyone v'shana achas. So the 2 countings are in the same year. Aminyon Rishon haya b'Tishrei. The first counting took in Tishrei acha Yom Kippurim, after Yom Kippur. Shenis. When the Jewish people were placated to the Jewish people to Hashem, he forgave them, and then he commanded them concerning the Mishkan, the year, and the second one was the first of the year. So he just answered that. Okay.
I know that, but Haman,
For the work of the tent, which is the silver sockets. What? Shimalev, you were saying?
yeah, I'm not okay with the 2 beginnings of the 2 years, but that's, you know, that's all right.
Next year.
So let me explain briefly what we just said. Follow me. How many fingers do I have up?
4.
Okay, that means you're,
I still see not clear, but I still.
I just want to make sure you're going to hear clear. If you look this way, if you're going to look this way, then you'll hear clear. So there's 2 different beginnings. Going out of Egypt is the beginning of the history of the Jews, because that's when we became a people, right? So when we speak about, you know,
That's Nisan.
that's Nisan, exactly. So when we're counting, is, if you will say, history, right? So we're going to count from the Jewish history is going to be the first month, Nisan. So we went out of Egypt the first year. The count that will be in the book of Numbers is in the second year, because it's in the second month of the second year, which is Iyar. So it's already a second year, right? But, so therefore there we would have a problem, because the count that we're talking about is 2 counts after Yom Kippur, which is what the count that we're talking about in our parsha, right? As opposed to in the book of Numbers. But they're the exact same count. How could they be exact same number? So he explains, because when we're counting people, not history, not the history of the Jewish people, right? No, you're counting the people, their year begins from Tishrei. So Tishrei, right? Rosh Hashanah, in other words, is when you count the year of a person, not your birthday. It's not your birthday week, right? Because when you turn, so if you were after Yom Kippur was the first, this count that we're talking about, right? That count meant what? If you were 29 at that count, or 19 at that count, guess what?
You weren't counting.
When do you count? When did it become 20?
After Tishrei.
Next Rosh Hashanah,
Mhm.
right? Not at your birthday, right? Because it's an equal count for everybody, right?
Okay.
So therefore, that year, Iyar, when you counted, what did that mean? You were not part of the count. So therefore,
Because you were 19.
because you were still 19. So therefore, the number was the same.
So a person's age was only counted at the time of the new year.
Right.
As
As
opposed to at the time they were born.
That's your personal birthday. When you're talking about when are you now an adult to be part of the army, is the 1st of Tishrei makes you the new, no, you add a number to your year.
Cool. You think they do that today in Israel?
No.
They don't do that today.
Okay, next, 17. Vidaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, no. And Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, anyways, there they go to the army at 18.
18, but I mean, it's 18 when it's your birthday, 18.
Yeah.
Not the 1st of Tishrei the following year.
Nachon. Okay,
Well, the shift comes.
verse 18. The Sisa kior, and you should make a kior. What's a kior? Is a wash basin. Necheshes, made out of copper. Nechanei necheshes, and a base, also made out of copper. L'rachza, for washing. The nesata, you say, and you should place it ben oyel mayed, between the tent of meeting, or ben mizbeach, and the altar, the outer altar, but nesata shamamayim, and you should place their water. Let's see Rashi. Here in 18. Got it? Kiyar, you mean dud gedela. This is like a large kettle, lama dadim, dadim, and it had spigots, shemerikim bifi hamayim, that poured out water in its openings. The chanai is a base or a pedestal. Kitargumai, the sisei, its base. Moshe mezukan lekiyar, the seat fashioned for the kiyar. So it was a base and was like a base, it was like a seat that you would sit on. L'rachza, its purpose was for washing, right? Musav al kiyar, referring to the kiyar, not to the basin, right? Beina mizbeach, where is it? What's its position? Between the altar, mizbeach ha'ela. So Rashi says, because we have an inner altar, right? So it's between the altar of the Oila offering, meaning where the animals were offered. Shikatsu boy, that's written about it. Shehu lifnei Pesach Mishkan Oyameid, that's in the front of the Mishkan of the tent of meeting. Mahaya Akir Mishra Kimiya, and the kir was drawn away a bit from directly in front of the entrance. Keneged Avir Shebein Mizbeach LeMishkan, and was standing near the space between the altar and the Mishkan. The Einam Mafsik Klab in a time, and it's not interposing directly between the entrance way, right? So it was off the entrance, so it shouldn't interpose and be directly
To the altar.
no, to the tent of meeting.
From tent to meet to the altar. It's not interposing between the two.
Right, exactly.
You have a straight line.
Einam Mafsik in a time, and it did not interpose between them. As it says that the altar of the Oila offering was at the entrance of the Mishkan of the tent of meeting, so meaning that it was directly open to it, right? Right, nothing interposing. And the kir therefore was not directly in front of the tent of meeting. How was that? Because it was more moved away a bit to the south. So it's taught in the tractate of Zivachim. Okay. There's a lot more to go.
Yeah, it's very long.
Very long today.
That's the first
But
one.